vehicle values have never gone up in a short period of time like they have over the last 3-4 years. So leasing will probably never, ever, ever be what it was in 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Yeah, I will never see it in my lifetime again. And if I do, then the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket.
What luxury brands are worth buying or leasing? Go ahead.
Most luxury brands are worth leasing and not buying, which is why, I don't know, probably 50 to 60% of all BMWs are leased and not purchased. Why the same is true pretty much for Mercedes-Benz. Most luxury brands tend to depreciate more quickly than non-luxury brands. So you're better off leasing them than buying them. Now, if we're talking about a specialty Ferrari or a specialty Lamborghini or a McLaren of some kind, something that's really built in limited numbers, then those type of luxury brands might actually appreciate in value if you, I don't know, sit on it and don't actually drive it. So my experience has been on mass market luxury brands, Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Lexus. For the most part, you're better off leasing them than buying them.
I'm very curious about this because I mean, this is a well-known thing about me and you disagreeing about leasing. But my question to you is, so in your opinion, you're going to be spending more money over that 3-year lease period but the car is going to depreciate more than the money that you're putting out in that 3-year period on that BMW.
Normally what happens with BMWs is BMW will artificially inflate the residual value of their vehicles in order to be able to come up with a more affordable payment on their products. And BMW dealers are required to buy back a large percentage of those vehicles when those leases are turned back in. So, assuming that it hasn't been wrecked, the dealers are actually forced to buy them. They're only allowed to turn down a small percentage of them during the course of the year. So, BMW, by artificially inflating the residual value, knows that they've got a buyer for that car when the lease is up, and it's called the dealership. And the dealership wants the car because it typically makes for good pre-owned inventory.
So my thing, if the dealer actually wants the car back and they have to buy it back at this, or they get it at this residual value or whatever, it feels like the amount that has depreciated is not greater than the amount that you would outlay over the course of this lease.
Am I wrong? You're on most BMW leases, you are paying for less depreciation than there really is. And the dealer is paying for the rest of the depreciation that should have been, because they're the ones that are forced to buy it at the end of the lease if the customer doesn't. So BMW is pretty much hedging their bets and forcing the dealer to make it easier. This is one of the few partnerships in automotive that tends to work, because the dealers end up with good quality used cars, and BMW helps to guarantee what those residual values will be so that they can come up with cheaper lease payments.
Okay. So what I will say, for the numbers that I've seen, at least, I can't speak for BMW. I'm not in the new car space, but from other brands I've looked at, because the amount of depreciation that happens in that 3-year period is often not as much as you're outlaying over that 3 years. Most of the time, a lease is not a financially wise decision, because if you would just buy the car and then 3 years later sell it, you end up not as negative as you were over the previous 3 years. And I know a lot of people that lease cars, they're like, okay, well, I don't want to have to deal with any problems or anything. This is why I lease a car. But the thing about that is you're leasing, you're taking on this accelerated depreciation by making these lease payments in a time period where the car is least likely to have any kind of issue. So that's my biggest argument with a lease. But I will say, if Ray's right, especially on this BMW case, if you actually are, if the car is worth the depreciation is not as much or as more than the amount of money that you've outlaid over that 3-year lease, then he is 100% right. And a lease is actually a good route to go in that particular case. But in most cases, it's not going to be that way.
No, and I don't disagree with you. But where you have artificially inflated residual values to help cut down on the amount of depreciation that you're paying for on that lease, you part of it is you have to. Here's the premise that I think most people fall into. In most states, if you buy a car and you finance it, and we've established that 85% of all people are payment buyers, which means they're financing it. In most states, you as the customer do not get the title. The title is being held by the bank. So if you operate under the premise that you are always going to have a car payment and you are never actually going to physically have the title to your vehicle because you never pay the damn thing off, then you are better off leasing the vehicle, because you can lease more vehicle for less money than if you were to buy the vehicle and trade it in every 3 or 3.5 years to get your next new vehicle. If you are the type of customer who buys a vehicle and intends to hold on to it for 6 or 8 or 10 years, you are so much better off buying it than leasing it. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. And I want to pull this comment up from Igor saying leasing, there's no risk of depreciation. I would argue that there's the risk of the anti-depreciation that comes along with leasing. Let's just use easy math. So 36-month lease, you pay $100 a month for this lease. So you pay $3,600 for this lease. But over the term of that lease, your car only depreciates by $2,400. So you end up paying $1,200 more in that lease situation than you would in outright owning the car and then selling it at the end of that 3-year period. So you actually spend more money on a lease than you would have buying it. That's the risk that you take when you're leasing a vehicle. Now, in the last 3-4 years, there's been a couple years where leasing, you actually came out way ahead, and that's because the values of vehicles went up. And I worry, because I hear a lot of leasing talk now, and I worry that people have been that have done leases over this time period and came out so far ahead at the end of their lease that now they're going to be sold on this leasing method. And that's not what the norm is. The norm is you're going to lose more money leasing a car typically than you're going to own than buying a car and then selling it at the end of that same period of time.
It was an anomaly that we ran into where leases, because used car values went up so rapidly during the pandemic, that many lease vehicles, the residuals were set a good 25 to 35% below what the actual market value of those vehicles were. That is not normal. That doesn't happen often. If it happens one short cycle in your lifetime, you've had a pretty good lifetime because it is such an anomaly. So yeah, we lived through that, where in many cases, people could end up buying out their lease at the end for the residual value, and they were buying their car at 25, 30, 35% below market value. In most cases, for most leases, especially on a BMW, If you were to buy the vehicle for the residual value at the end, in most cases, you are paying much more than what its market value is, than what the real value of that vehicle is. And that's why most people never buy their lease cars out at the end of the lease, because typically they're actually paying more for it than what it's worth. But we did go through that period of time where it was the reverse of that. And people were actually able to buy their vehicle for 25, 30, 35% below its true market value. Doesn't happen often.
Yeah, and Igor wants to argue with me, so I want to go ahead and tell him that he's wrong since I have a microphone and he doesn't. But so he says, so you buy out and selling it at your and get your equity out of it. But what you just said, the residual value does not mean that's what you can sell it for or what you're going to get for the car. So that's why this doesn't matter.
Yeah, leases typically are, you're not going to break even or come out ahead. Typically, we just went through that period of time where most people could make money on their lease vehicle. That is not a common happenstance. You're what, 35?
I am 36 now.
You are 36. So maybe we'll go through another period in your lifetime.
And I'm gonna lease every vehicle I see.
No. But I'm just saying, maybe 30 years from now, 35 years from now, we'll be in another one of those cycles where leased vehicles will be worth more than what the residuals are. It might, once or twice. It might happen once or twice in your lifetime, but it ain't happening more than that.
So what has to happen for that to be the case is that used vehicle prices have to go up in a 2 to 3 year period of time.
Yes.
Have we ever, the 70s, we saw that? Has there been another situation? Like when inflation went just through the roof, I would assume vehicles, obviously I was not alive during that time. You were what, 50 then? So
in the 70s, thanks. Yeah. Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah, but when inflation went crazy, what, late 70s, early 80s, didn't...
Yeah, but interest rates were 17, 18, 19%. Okay.
But they did that because inflation went so high, though. Inflation was high before they raised interest rates. I do know that.
We had stagflation, and it was just, it was just one of the ugliest times. And no, I don't think I don't recall the value of vehicles going up dramatically at that period of time because nobody could afford to finance the damn thing. If I remember correctly, I bought a house and I got like a 13.5 or 14.5% rate on the mortgage, and it was not a fixed rate; it was an ARM, and so it was an adjustable rate mortgage, and you're just praying that when it's time for those rates to adjust, that rates have finally come down. You're betting on the downside, and there was no guarantee that was going to happen. But I had a money market account, okay? And the money market account at that time paid 13, 14% interest on your money, okay? Not 0.75%.
So here's the point to all of that. So vehicle values have never gone up in a short period of time like they have over the last 3-4 years. So leasing will probably never, ever, ever be what it was in 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute anomaly that you might see at some point deep into the future in your lifetime again. I will never see it in my lifetime again. And if I do, then the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket.
Have we beat this subject to a pulp?
I feel like I'm worn out.
This wasn't even a show topic. How did we do this?
I don't know.
Where did we go? What went wrong here?
I don't know. It's conversation. We have the parameters for a show that is, and the show is entirely based on wherever the conversation takes us.
Oh, it was that person who sent us money. I'm turning that off. We're not doing that anymore.
Well, you've got two more before you do that. But also,
Yeah.
I will say you've gotten to the point where you and Igor are agreeing. So,
Oh yeah, because I have a microphone. He has to agree at this point.
No, I don't think so. But anyway, I think
There it is.
that might mean that the
There, I think I won the
conversation is-
argument. Then, if he's putting that in the chat, we can.
that's out of context.
We can end the show now. There we go. Thanks, Igor. We appreciate it.
And people need to know that we absolutely love Igor and his
I love Igor. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not messing with you, if I'm not making fun of you, if I'm not giving you a hard time, then I don't like you at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Igor's pretty good company to keep.
All right, let's go to an actual topic. All right, here we go.
Have those?
Yes, I have those. I stayed up late last night to get these together for you, Ray. I did it all for you.
Well,
and I was tired.
I sent you some topics.
All right, so all of you watching here, I know most of you are not subscribed, so I need you to hit that subscribe button. Whatever we need to do to get you to hit that subscribe button, Ray will do it. So just hit it for us and let us know what he needs to do down in the comments to get you to subscribe. And I'm going to let you answer this because my wife is whispering over to me to be gentle on this question. So I'm going to let you answer it.
Yeah, Ray, this is all you. I need you to leave Brandon out of this.
Great.
I'll read it for you. All right. So with a 570 credit score, how much of a down payment do I need for a 2013 Mercedes S550, 70,000 miles for $17,000?
I would say 20 grand, including all fees. So
yes, that's the
answer. That's what I would suggest. If you, Dirty Joe, if you literally have a 570 credit score, and I hope you're asking for a friend, but if it's you that actually has that 570 credit score and you just paid $499 to ask this question, now I know why you have a 570 credit score. Okay, you should not be looking at a 2013 Mercedes S550 with any miles. It doesn't matter how many miles. It is going to be a money pit. It is going to be a drain. Okay, I can guarantee you that things that you didn't even realize could break on a car will break on that Mercedes-Benz, and ain't none of it going to be cheap. And if you have a 570 credit score and you're looking to buy an 11 or 12-year-old car and you're looking to finance some of it, well, you're looking to pay 24-25% interest. Why would you want to do that? So what type of a down payment do you need? Go find a $2,500 or $5,000 car that you can buy from Brandon if you have that kind of money available. Otherwise, if you do this to yourself, you're always going to have a 570 credit score or lower.
Yeah, Joe. So Ray was harder on you than I thought he was going to be, but
I'm sorry.
All right, so you look like you're a young man, and here's the thing: we don't want you. We talk out of love because we don't want you to do what everyone else does. We don't want you to invite yourself to this eternal wealth destruction, which is car payments on cars that cost too much, have too many miles, and something is going to happen. And I know we've all made mistakes in our past as far as money goes. I know that I had too much debt when I was very young and had to dig myself out of a hole to be able to get to where I am today. But you're never going to be able to get yourself out of a hole. Even if you don't owe any money, you have a hole of that 570 credit score. And the way to fix that is not by buying a $17,000 car and paying what Ray said was this 25% interest. So we say all this. It's tough love right here, but we don't think this is in your best interest to go down this route. And what I would do if I were in your shoes is exactly what Ray was saying. I would try to save up $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, and go. Don't buy from me. Don't buy from a dealer anywhere. find an individual that has a car that you can know the history on. I recommend this to a lot of people because you can find better deals from an individual than you can find from me. I mean, remember, I'm not doing. I mean, I sell to underserved population, but I'm not running a charity. I'm still making money, so I'm buying cars at auction for a price. Now I'm marking them up, and then I'm making money off them. You can do a similar thing yourself by going and buying one from an individual and pay a similar price to what I do at an auction, but you can have the added benefit of knowing the history of this car. So this is what we would like for you to do, and we think that this would set you up for a much better future if you can go that route versus going the flashy route, which I know you want the Mercedes. I know you want that in your driveway. I know you want to pick up your girl in the Mercedes. I get it. I was there. I remember that. But the Mercedes doesn't get you the good girl. It's the 2001 Mazda 626. That's what gets you the girl.
Oh yeah.
See?
All right, I think that's a positive note. I think we can end on that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think so. You softened up my my comment, and I appreciate that.
Yep, you're not wrong. It just needs to be heard in a different way, I think.
Yes.
I thought you both did great.
Yeah. I have an interesting question for you. So as you've been in these franchise dealerships selling new cars, do you feel like it's been how am I going to phrase this? Is it does it I can't get words. Does it cause more sales?
We all know it. Words are hard.
Words are hard.
Yeah.
All right. So